All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and I am excited to have the interview that we have scheduled for today. If you remember, not too long ago, I had not only the writer and director but also one of the stars of the upcoming indie horror feature known only as Demigod. However, I have one of the other stars as well. So give me one moment while I introduce them. I would like to, for the first time here in our show, and perhaps one of many times, I'd like to introduce Rachel Nichols. So give me one moment. Hey, Rachel, how you doing?
Hi, good morning. As I was saying to you right before we started broadcasting, I didn't realize this was on camera, so I've done my best, but I am wearing sweatpants and, at least my t-shirt says I love you. So I've got my,
There you go.
damn it's good to be Canadian mug. My husband's Canadian. And we're ready to go.
All right, all right. So let's get this show on the road then. So first and foremost, as I said, thanks for coming on and talking Demigod. And I'll start first. First things first. How are you doing? How are things? Considering everything that where we are in our world right now, and all the changes that have been made, and how things are constantly evolving. How are you doing?
Thank you for asking. I'm doing pretty good. I mean, I think I'm in the same boat as many people as I went like this throughout the pandemic. Like there was some good, and then there was some bad, and then there was some good, and there was some uncertainty, and then of course in my industry, it was like, am I ever going to work again? And things are good now. After Demigod was actually the first film I shot during the pandemic. And I have since shot another Netflix film, and I joined ABC's A Million Little Things. So I can't complain. I every all the protocols have been very well maintained, and people are staying safe on set. And I haven't been exposed to COVID, and I'm fully vaccinated, so I'm not going to complain.
Awesome, awesome stuff. So, hopping right into the film, can you talk a bit about how you joined Demigod? How you joined, as I said, this indie feature?
Yeah, you know what? I got the offer, and I read the script, and I was pretty intrigued by it, and I thought, well, this is kind of interesting. And I spoke with Miles, and I really liked his vibe. Essentially, he knew what he was doing. He knew what he wanted. He knew what he wanted for the aesthetic of the movie, which, especially in a genre film like this, you've got to have a perspective. You've got to know what you want it to look like.
Indeed.
And I thought to myself, okay, we're all contained on the same campus. The cast and crew, we all lived and shot in the same campground, essentially in Mississippi. And I thought, okay, that's contained. People aren't going to be leaving, because this was November of 2020, so we were still really in full swing. And this was before vaccinations, obviously. Um, and so I thought, I want to get back on set, and this is a good way to do it. And I like Miles, and I like the whole sort of vibe that I was getting. And I said, let's give it a go and see. And if it's horrible and scary, I'll just wrap it up and come home and not work again for a while. But it wasn't. I mean, the movie's horrible and scary, but my my you know my experience was not horrible and scary.
Indeed, indeed, and I feel like that's a interesting segue, or appropriate segue, if you will, into your character. And in seeing the film, one thing that comes to mind immediately in thinking of the character's journey is just that idea of trauma, and perhaps like inherited trauma or generational trauma, if you will,
Mhm.
of perhaps trauma that is experienced from the generation before, and how it's passed down. So can you speak to that, and if there were other facets of it that that really spoke to you, or if there were other things that you really found intriguing about it.
I the idea of generational trauma. Now, I'll be first and foremost to say that I am extremely fortunate, and I don't have, as far as generation. I got very lucky. I don't think I have any inherited trauma, but I believe that it exists, and I do think that it's something that not a lot of people actually know about or believe in. But listen, I watch a lot of Law and Order SVU, and I can tell you it exists. And yeah, obviously there she's got this scene with her grandfather where he's forcing her to eat that eyeball, and she's got, there's the question of family and how much is passed down. And this is why I liked her so much. And it's actually why I liked her husband so much, because he goes on, Johannes, the actor who played my husband, who's beautiful and wonderful, he goes on this journey with her, not knowing what he's getting into, like really having no idea. It's just, oh, she inherited a cabin. Cool, we're going to go. He has no idea the can of worms that he's getting into. And he supports her and loves her and fights for her. And he just shows up like the great husband that he is. And that part to me, that spoke more to me, because of the fact that he was just diving in, not knowing what he was going into. And for my character, it was like, I know I have memories. I don't know for sure how much I remember. I think there was more trauma there that we didn't express in the film, that we didn't see. I think we just hit the tip of the iceberg, because that was enough to sort of get that storyline moving. I think there were other things, but that all goes into the filmmaking. And so I believe that, yes, I don't think she knew exactly what she was getting into either. I know that she knew about the trauma and what had happened to her, and I know she has flashbacks and memories, but she certainly didn't think what was going to happen. What happened was going to happen, and I don't want to do any spoiler alert, so I'm trying to dance around it. I'm trying to dance around it with the
Right,
right
right.
music. Um, but I mean, if she knew what was going to happen, I don't think she was going to take that cabin. I think she'd hire a real estate agent, put it on the market, and not show up at all.
Yeah, indeed. And and speaking to that, I mean, you commented on it just now in terms of something that transpires with your character, and I know you've been quoted as saying that one thing that if you have the ability to do it for a given role in terms of like the physicality, you are game to do it. However, as you know, there's still come those times when you're doing a role or you're reading, a role that you come across, you're like, I have to do what, or it requires this to happen, like and considering that and what transpires again without spoiling anything with the story, of course, of what's asked of your character and what you need to do. Can you speak to that? And I'm sure that there were times you're like, oh man, this is nuts.
Well, okay, so first of all, the eating of the eye was, oh, it wasn't a real eye, obviously. It was like a pickled
I
quail.
hope not. Just like yeah.
Oh, I mean, to put it simply, the vomiting part was way easier than eating the pickled quail egg covered in ketchup part. Like, ugh, that was. But of course, I'm game for it. But my reaction to eating that egg in the movie is actually 100% authentic. I was not acting there; it was terrible. And then what I didn't know, which I am glad that I asked about, I was very naive about Mississippi, because I thought, oh, it's in the South. It's going to be balmy and warm. No, 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 no. It was cold. It was really, really cold. I actually had my in-laws who live in Vancouver. My husband's from Canada, and I had them ship me my Canada Goose jacket that I used every season of Continuum. It's massive. It's a men's large, because it had to go over my wardrobe, and it's got this big furry hood, and it's down, and I think it's bigger than my first New York City apartment. They shipped it to me because I thought, I don't have a jacket. I live in LA. I don't have a jacket that's going to protect me. So just speaking to some of the other trying issues was the cold, and the breath is real, and shooting at night in the cold, and you get that cold inside you, and it's just, but I love doing fight scenes. and I love using any weapon anybody will give me. I mean, I had a crossbow for Scarlet. I had, a sword for Tamara. I love all of that. So I do pretty much everything action wise as production will allow me to. There have been 3 times where I've been told no. One was jumping from one running horse onto another running horse. That I can't do. One was, it's called a suplex, but I was being thrown through a glass window, and one was I was being thrown through a glass wall, but I was ratcheted. So I those 3 stunts I did not do. The rest of them, most of it's me.
Nice, nice. And I would be remiss. I'm gonna go on a brief tangent here, and then I'm gonna work my way back to Demigod. I know
I
you brought up
love tangents.
Scarlet. I know you brought up Scarlet, and I know it's not lost on you that they recently had a GI Joe esque, or I should say GI Joe universe related film with Snake Eyes. Did you have a chance to see the film, and was it? Did it provide a cool element of knowing that you brought your talents to that role, and then to also see see it in a different light as well
I I did
afterwards.
not I did not I did not see the film, but I did Ray Park play Snake Eyes again or no?
No, they recast it with Henry Golding, I believe,
Oh, okay.
from
So
yeah, yeah.
this is how minimal my knowledge is. Because Ray Park was, I mean, he was a blast. We had so much fun shooting. He was so much fun. He was like cool, and like loved to grab beers. And he was just, I adored him. So if I think I know that they sort of, now I know that they recast him as well. And obviously, like the original, or not the original, the one that I participated in was many eons ago. So I think probably a refresher of the cast was necessary. I'm totally in support in support of it, and I will watch the film at some point, but I haven't seen it yet.
Gotcha. And it's always fascinating in speaking with um, actors such as yourself that have had such a career thus far, in terms of like the contrast of roles that they have tackled. And it's always interesting to talk about what it is that draws you to a part. And for some, it seems like there's a trend in terms of a similar answer of well, obviously, in the beginning of my career, it was something where it it allowed me to have a job, and you have to eat, and I'm doing the part for that reason. And then as you continue further, you have that luxury of having your choice of roles, and to delve deeper into that artistic aspect of those individual roles. So um and for others, they're fortunate enough where they actually still even have that towards the beginning of their career. So I want to ask of you, considering thinking back of uh uh um of Rachel, younger in early in her career versus now. Do you feel that what it is that draws you, or what it is that you pursue, um, has it has it evolved in terms of what it is that draws you, or what speaks to you, based on the breadth of life between what the earlier in your career to now present day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was very fortunate in the beginning. I mean, I one of my I mean, I had worked previously, but when I joined Alias, that's the first time I ever did a fight scene. And I adored the show. I was such a huge fan of the show that when I was auditioning and testing for the role, um, I um, I didn't tell the producers that I was a fan. I'd kind of played it off and said, "Oh, I've just seen a couple of episodes." And when the ink was dry on the contract, I went to Ken Olin and I said, "Okay, I need season 4 on DVD right now because it's not out yet and I need to watch it." And he went, "I thought you've only seen a couple of episodes." And I went, No, I'm an insane fan of the show and I've seen everything. And so I got very fortunate with that and to work with obviously JJ Abrams and Jennifer Garner and everybody in that cast. And it was such a wonderful experience. And yeah, as the years have gone by, yeah, I've played the, sexy Scarlet or Tamara in Conan or, the Green Girl Gala in Star Trek. And all of those roles were amazing. And as I've, gotten older, as we all do, I have been able to sort of kind of release that feeling of, oh, I need to be sort of sexy sex bomb all the time. Kind of,
Ingenue, yes, of course,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's very freeing. And I encourage everybody to do it because look, I just played, well, it was a couple years ago now, I played Angela on Titans. I played the mom of the lead
Yeah.
character, and I showed up to do my makeup test, and the makeup artist said, "Studio, they want you to look bad," and I went, "Okay," and she said, "No, they want you to like look really, like we're gonna make you look really sickly and bad," and I said, "Okay," and she said, "But no, like no hair, makeup." I said, "That's fine. That means less time for me in the chair." I
Right,
said,
yeah, yeah.
"Less time for me in the chair in the morning," and I don't mind looking bad. It's okay because that's the character, and I find that as I've gotten older, it's very freeing. Not that I'm like 900 years old. I'm proud 41. But it's become a lot more freeing just to say, okay, I like. I mean, even on a million little things, which I just jumped on for an 5 episode arc. I look sort of dowdy, and my hair's always in a ponytail, and I loved it. It was very freeing. So yes, that is the change that has happened. Is that I've been able to say, if you want to see sexy time Rachel Nichols, there's a Maxim cover I did 10 years ago. You could go back and watch G.I. Joe, but now I'm in it for the grit and the role and the juice and the meat behind it. So yeah, it's been an interesting metamorphosis, I would say.
Indeed, indeed. And I guess I'll ask next. I had Elena Sanchez before, and as I was mentioning
Oh,
before, I had Miles and Elena before, and talking about another element in with these characters is, and I feel it's kind of understated, but I feel it's still an important aspect of it is the movement component, and how characters move around in the world that they inhabit. And in speaking with that, very much so, like with the antagonist, with our witches, they have a very much a language in terms of how they move, and how they function in the world that we have in that film. So can you talk in that same way with your character, and perhaps some of the things that you thought of in terms of how she kind of functioned in the world that we have in this film, and perhaps what she has outside. I guess she's a person who has stepped away from her her upbringing, and is traveled out into the world and has made her way back. But now as she makes her way back, you feel like there are some elements to her where she's kind of reliving or remembering many of those things that she perhaps wanted to forget, or had thought that she had long lost.
yeah, there's definitely, I mean, for shout out to Elena because we lit her on fire, as you know. We lit her on fire. She's a great actress and she's also a great stunt performer. We lit her on fire, and that was terrifying. And I don't know how she did it, and I don't know how anybody has the courage to do it. I am so grateful to her for saying, "Yeah, sure, light me on fire," because it was terrifying. And so for her, I mean, that scene in and of itself is kind of crazy. But yes, I think for me, there was the character's trepidation and going into a history and going into a past. I think you see it a lot, especially when I'm dealing with little bird, um, uh, the the other Rachel. There are two Rachels, so the younger girl is also Rachel, and
Yes.
there was a lot for me in that because I had gone down this road and I had been reintroduced to some things in my past, I wanted to take care of her. So I hope it comes across in my scenes with her that I, especially the one at night when I try to speak German to her. And yes, I don't speak German. My German was terrible, but it was supposed to be terrible. Just for anybody that's watching and says Rachel's German is terrible. Yeah, it was supposed to be terrible. Um, I wanted to protect her. I wanted to, and it's cold and it's damp and there's a lot to that, but also my relationship with my husband. I mean, Johan's and I, there's a movement there too. It's a totally different movement than the protective movement. Um, there's a real love there, and there's a real honesty there, and his movement of protecting me and my need to be protected. It's I also hope that that comes across because, like I said earlier, he he is the, as the in the husband role walks into this scenario, doesn't know what he's getting into, and then again I'm trying to just use words that
Stuff
don't
happens. We'll just say stuff happens.
he steps up in a big way, and our relationship, I think, it goes from being cutesy and cuddling and having, wine and cheese and all of that, and having a little kiss, getting into bed together. And I'm like, you can, one of my favorites is I'm like, you can be big spoon. And he big spoons me. And this is before any horror or trauma has been brought up. There's a different kind of movement in that too, because that relationship changes dramatically, as you know. So yeah, there's movement is a big deal. I find it especially obviously in fight scenes or whenever you're performing a stunt. That's choreographing a dance. So nothing says movement quite like choreographing a dance, and that is exactly what it's like to choreograph a fight scene. So yeah, movement's important on all levels.
Awesome, awesome. And I know you were teasing a bit of it before, so I suppose I'll
This
close with this and talking. I was you were talking about some of the other things that you have coming next. So can you speak to that and perhaps tease some other things that maybe you can comment
yeah,
on, or maybe they're
yeah.
still under wraps right now. Maybe you are
No, no, no.
under wraps with some of them. Okay.
I'm allowed to. They've both been put in the press, and actually, episodes of my arc on A Million Little Things have already started to air, so the cat's out of the bag. So I did a movie for Netflix called The Last Will and Testament of Charles Abernathy, and that was super fun because Bob Gunton, who you might know from, he played the warden in The Shawshank Redemption. He
Yes.
played
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
dad. He played my dad, and the film is very much like that HBO show Succession, but there's a weird family twist. Apparently, I'm big into family twist movies. Apparently, I'm on board for family twist thrillers. We had a great cast, and it was really fun. Netflix were great. They again, the protocols are very important on set right now, and um, everybody was wearing a mask and an advisor, and everybody got tested. You got to do that nowadays. And then I joined ABC's A Million Little Things for just 5 episodes as of right now. And my mother-in-law was so excited, and she freaked out. And she said, "What are you playing?" And I said, "I'm not going to tell you what the character is. You're going to have to guess." And she's she spent weeks trying to guess what the character is, and she's about to learn. She's about to learn who I am, but I haven't told her yet because it's kind of a big secret pertaining to the show. But yeah, those two projects I'm really excited about. And there are a couple other things that I've got set up for the new year. But then again, stuff moves around, and you never know if it's for sure. And I know like if I were to look on IMDb right now, I'm sure I have like a bunch of projects that are yeah. So there are a couple. Okay, so they took. Okay, so there are a couple that were in there that have fluctuated and moved around, so I can't talk about
Shifted.
those
Yeah.
yet. But
Gotcha.
yeah, no, I'm excited about not only Demigod, but Charles Abernathy and A Million Little Things.
Right, awesome stuff. Well, Rachel, I want to thank you so much for hopping on the show. For those of you out there watching, Demigod arrives in theaters and on demand on October 15th. Rachel, thanks again for coming on and talking, about this film. Before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you?
My home address.
No, on social media.
I'm kidding.
On social
I
media,
live
yeah.
at 123 Nichols Street, Los Angeles, California. No,
No, no.
no, I'm kidding. I know you were not saying that. I I'm on Twitter, not to be confused with the other Rachel
Yes,
Nichols
not to
from
be confused, guys.
ESPN. Not like just I'm at Rachel Nichols and then the number one, and my handle literally says not ESPN because there's been some confusion lately, and it hasn't been super pleasant. Um, so anyway, Rachel Nichols won on Twitter, and everybody laughs about this, but I lost a bet many moons ago to my friend Jake Hoffman, and he named my Instagram account. So I'm on Instagram at Tickle Nichols.
Very nice, very nice.
And I
All
don't even
right,
remember the bet that I lost. I don't remember the bet. I remember we were at the Bowery Hotel. It was late at night, and we were in New York City at the Bowery Hotel. And he bet me something, and he said if I lost, he got to name my Twitter account, and I lost. And I don't remember the bet, and I'm still Tickle Nichols. So
awesome. Well, there you guys have it. Tickle Nichols, thank you so much for hopping on this episode of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Just kidding. But yes, again, thank you, Rachel. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, guys. As always, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Be safe out there, and I will see you soon. Bye.
thank you guys. Thanks, Brandon.
Bye.